his message to the top. But before dialogue between the states could begin, another allegation that Iran had sponsored terrorism had to be dealt with. A year before Khatami was elected, a truck bomb had killed 19 American servicemen and wounded 372.
I thought, as soon as I heard the news, that I had to consider going to the scene. So I diverted my plane to Saudi Arabia and I visited the site. And there was this building with the whole front of it just sheared off, so you could see into all the rooms. Floodlights were illuminating it. It looked like a terrible movie set of devastation.
Good morning. Let me be very clear. We will not resist, we will not rest in our efforts to find who is responsible for this outrage, to pursue them and to punish them.
There was some evidence that Iran had been involved, and many people were advocating some prompt action against Iran.
Last night I directed an FBI team of 40 experts, investigators and forensic experts, to go there to work with the Saudi Arabian authorities.
After 3 years, the FBI believed they had seen conclusive evidence.
The FBI gets access to the prisoners that the Saudis are holding, and we get the smoking gun that the Iranians were responsible for the Khobar Towers bombing. And we had to decide, what were we going to do about it now?
Some of Clinton's advisers argued for military retaliation. But the State Department argued that since Khatami became president, Iran's support for terrorism had declined.
And the question was how to separate Khatami out from previous actions and not hold him responsible.
We thought it was better to see if he would act against the people responsible, particularly the intelligence chiefs who had sent the bombers and the people that we believed were involved in the bombing who had sanctuary in Iran.
So President Clinton sent 2 aides to see a sultan in France.
The drive was about an hour outside of Paris through the rolling countryside of the Seine River Valley to this magnificent residence.
It was the summer retreat of a good friend to both America and Iran, Sultan Qaboos of Oman.
I said, Your Majesty, we come here as envoys for President Clinton with a message that we would like you to find a way to deliver.
ثم سألونا ما إذا كان بإمكاننا أن نوصل هذه الرسالة إلى يد الرئيس خاتمي شخصيا.
We wanted to try to make sure that he was the only one who knew, because hardliners in Tehran were doing their best to prevent him from going forward with his, what we understood to be his desire to normalize relations with the United States.
ولكننا نريد أن نعرف ماذا في الرسالة. إذا كانت هذه الرسالة تنطوي على تهديدات فإحنا ناسف لا نستطيع أن نأخذ هذه الرسالة.
I said the letter explained that the United States wanted to have a positive relationship with Iran, but that there was this problem.
We know that Iran was directly involved in a terrorist operation that killed 19 Americans, and we need some answer from the Iranians that they're going to hold those involved responsible and bring them to justice.
His Majesty said, we'll do whatever we can.
Soon after, Oman's foreign minister arrived in Tehran with President Clinton's letter.
في هذه الرسالة بشيء من الأهمية وأن هذه فرصة ربما باب فتح لزيادة يعني الاتصالات.
اما خب این مسئله ویژه‌ای بود که اولا خود رئیس جمهور این پیام را میده. لحن پیام مؤدبانه بود اما میشد ازش استنباط اینو تهدید بکنه آدم.
الرئيس خاتمي أكد بصورة فيها كثير من الجدية أن إيران ليس لها دخل بما حصل في الخبر.
پذیرش پیامشون معناش این بود که ما اتهام رو قبول کردیم در حالی که واقعیت نداشت.
Iran maintains Al-Qaeda was responsible for the Khobar bombing. No matter who was behind it, to launch the investigation the Americans asked for would mean challenging the most powerful forces in Iran.
عدم آشنایی سیاستمداران آمریکا با اوضاع ایران با اوضاع منطقه سبب شد که اشتباهات بزرگی بکنند و اون فضایی که میتونست به نفع هر دو کشور باشه اون فضا تا حدودی بسته شد.
We got the response back through the Omanis. To put it simply, it was disappointing.
But there was one place where American and Iranian interests coincided: Afghanistan. The dominant force there, the Taliban, was Sunni Muslims violently opposed to the Shia, the ruling group in Iran.
طالبان احساس یعنی ایران رو دشمن خودش میدونست و این اسلامی که در ایران بود قبول نداشت. وجود طالبان در شرق ما یک تهدید جدی استراتژیک برای ماست.
In August 1998, the Taliban were laying siege to the northern town of Mazar-e-Sharif. As the Taliban closed in, Iran's consul there made a desperate phone call to Tehran. The line went dead. The Taliban killed 9 Iranian diplomats, including the consul.
جنایت سازمان یافته این رفتاری که نسبت به نمایندگی جمهوری اسلامی ایران و دیپلمات‌های ایرانی شده بود توهینی به ملت ایران بود، نه تنها بعضی از نظامیان بلکه بخشی از سیاسیون معنای واکنش رو فقط در چارچوب نظامی می‌دیدند.
Iran prepared to avenge its murdered diplomats.
We understand that Iran has deployed significant numbers of troops and equipment on its border with Afghanistan. So clearly this is a matter of serious concern, and it's something we're watching extremely closely.
تصور ما بود که عملیات نظامی مفهوم نداره، نباید انجام بشه. بنابراین توجیه کننده بود که ما به سمت واکنش و به سمت جلب توجه جامعه بین‌المللی بریم.
To stop the escalation towards war, President Khatami and his foreign minister went to the UN General Assembly to try to get the international community to intervene.
My friend, how are you?
The UN Secretary General already had a working group on Afghanistan. It was the only place where the United States and Iran had official contact.
Kofi Annan called me up to say that perhaps it was a useful idea during the General Assembly to have this group at ministerial level, which meant that I would be in the same room with the Foreign Minister of Iran.
معتقدیم که یک راهکار مناسبی بود برای حل مشکلات. ما را به گام‌های بعدی که حتی به حل مسائل دو جانبه هم برسونه نزدیکتر بکنه.
I was very excited about the possibility of having some kind of a breakthrough because this was also the first time anybody at a ministerial level had met with the Iranians. I went to my side of the table and I smiled nicely.
Secretary Albright was trying to break the ice. The Iranian foreign minister had been UN ambassador just the way she had been UN ambassador. And in her opening statement, she made a remark to the effect that, isn't it nice that diplomats can go from UN ambassador to foreign minister?
No reaction. I thought maybe the translator had not done it right, and so I said it again.
She said, some of us have been here and now we're foreign ministers.
Now, I knew that he looked different, but people change, you know. I lost weight. And so I turned around to my bank of experts and I said, is this Kharazi?
And everyone kind of shrugged their shoulders because we had left the expert outside the room because everybody wanted to be in the meeting and we only had 5 seats. And we actually didn't know who was the foreign minister or whether this leader of their delegation was in fact the foreign minister.
I started making a statement, presenting the views of Iran and also noting the areas where we had similarity of interest.
Kofi Annan said, isn't it nice that the deputy foreign minister of Iran was able to join us for this meeting if the foreign minister couldn't? And all of a sudden, I turned around to the guys behind me and said, yeah, now we know.
We walked out of the conference and Secretary Albright began yelling at all of us. How could this have happened? Why didn't we know the Iranians were going to double deal us?
Why didn't Dr. Kharazi attend this meeting?
Well, Dr. Kharazi was occupied with the president. As you know, the president has a very heavy schedule and he expressed his regret that he did not attend the meeting.
ما فکر می‌کردیم بهانه‌ای بشه برای کسانی که بدبین‌تر از من هستن به مسائل و فکر می‌کردم که باز اگر ما از سطح پایین‌تری کار را شروع کنیم شاید موفق‌تر باشیم.
Certainly people who expected a ministerial turnout were disappointed. But the meeting wasn't bad, the meeting was constructive as far as Afghanistan was concerned.
The Americans used their influence in the region to rein in the Taliban. President Khatami halted the march to war. As he rose to address the General Assembly, delegates had a chance to see Iran's foreign minister and his deputy, and to work out which was which.
کوشش صادقانه برای مبارزه با تروریسم در تمامی اشکال آن و از جمله تروریسم دولتی یکی دیگر از نکات مورد اهتمام جمهوری اسلامی ایران است. باید برای ریشه‌کن کردن حقیقی این پدیده شوم همراه با مبارزه با عوامل فعلی آن از طریق همکاری جدی و شفاف بین المللی در راه تحقق عدالت در جهان کوشش کنیم.
The president's offer